to block out and model the basic shapes of a Vespa GTS. So before you actually start to model, you need to get a good set of blueprints. So on the internet, I managed to find these images here. Okay, these images are very low resolution. It's not that great, but it is sufficient. The most important thing is that it has a top view, front view, and a back view, so that it provides you with sufficient information to model. The next thing you need to prepare is lots of reference images. Again, this particular Vespa model, the Vespa GTS 2016 model, is quite common. So you can find a lot of images online. Now, one thing I noticed about this original image when I brought it in was that it is not a square image. So this is the original image. The dimensions is 400 by 386. So you have to bring it into Photoshop itself and resize it in the canvas size to match the width, okay, and the height. So I resized the canvas to 400 by 400. Then after that, I added a grid lines using the rulers, guidelines using the stroke method. Okay, if you're not sure how to do that, please watch my earlier videos to produce this image. So this is the image that I'll be using to model and block out the Vespa. So I'm going to restart from this again. So I'm going to hide these models first by putting them in another layer. I'm going to grab all of them, put them in the layer. Just hide this one. And then I'm going to hide this reference as well. So I'm going to bring in the new reference for this file. Create a polygon plane. Okay, highlight the subdivision width and height in the inputs. Middle mouse click and drag left to reduce the size. Highlight the width and height. Middle mouse click and drag to the right on the viewport to increase the size. And right mouse click, assign new material. Choose the surface shader. Go to the surface shader tab under the out color checker box. Select file. Choose the image that you have prepared. So in this case, I create the Vespa blueprint with all the grid lines. Remember to press number 6 if you can't see the textures on the viewport. Next, I want to orientate the reference so that it matches the lineup of my viewport. So normally my top view, I prefer my references to have the vehicle pointing downwards. So move the top view, okay, until it's about middle. Line up with the thick grid lines. So my top view is now lined up. I'm going to push it down, press Shift D to duplicate another piece. So now I'm going to line my side view. Holding down the J key, grab the X-axis and rotate. Then push this back, go to the right view. Now we are lining up the right view. So I'm going to move this down until the floor reference line touches, or rather the tires touches the thick grid line. So right now my side view is lined up. I'm going to duplicate another reference. Press E to rotate, holding down the J key, snap rotate it until the front view is lined up with the Z-axis. While holding down the J and rotating, make sure that you can see the angle at the lower left-hand corner. Okay, that will show you all the tip information. If not, you can go to the channel box and check that your rotation is correct. Go to the front view, switch to the front view, tap your spacebar, click on the marking box and choose front view. Press W to move. Move the front view until it lines up with the thickest grid line. Okay, maybe a bit hard to see in this video line, but here are the thickest grid line. Now I'm going to move it until the center line cuts right into the reference. So now my front is lined up. Now what about the back? Okay, you can duplicate another piece. Push the back to the front. I'm going to temporarily hide this. In fact, I'm going to just put all of these three, the front, the side, put them in a brand new layer and temporarily hide them first. Now for the back view, you need to switch to the back view. And you need to move until the back view lines up with the grid here. Make sure the thickest center line is matched with the grid. Okay, so now my back view is now lined up. So the next thing you need to do is you need to remove away the Additional faces that doesn't show the size that you want. So go to edge selection mode, holding down the shift. Okay, right mouse click on the plane, go to edge selection mode, holding down the shift, right mouse click, insert edge loop. I'm gonna insert one edge loop here, insert one edge loop here, and insert one more edge loop just below the tires. Then go to press Q to select and get rid of the faces showing the views that you don't need. So right now I only have my back view. You can go to modify and center the pivot. Okay, so right now it's in the center. I'm going to unhide the rest of my references. I'm going to do the same. Selecting each individual plane, right mouse click to it, go to the edge selection mode, holding down the shift. Holding down the shift, right mouse click and insert edge loop. And now I just want to isolate the side view. Okay, press Q. Go and select the faces that you don't need and delete away. Now the front view, go to edge mode, shift, right mouse click, insert edge loop. Click and slide the edge loops over those image references that you don't need and delete away the faces. Forgot to do one thing, that is to center the pivot. So go to modify and center pivot, modify, center pivot. And now the top view, same thing, go to shift, go to edge selection mode, right mouse click and hold, click on one of the edge, shift, right mouse click, insert edge loop, then insert and slide the edge loops until you can isolate the view that you want to keep. Go back to object mode, modify and center pivot. So this is how you line up your views. Now I'm going to put the back view in a brand new layer. You double click on it and call this back reference and save and hide the back reference. We don't need the back reference for now. And as for the references, I'm going to name them accordingly. With Vespa ref, then click save. Then I'm going to click on the third box here until it changes to R so that I can restrict them so I can't select them anymore. So test your right view, front view, and your top view. So now they're all lined up. So let's take a look. How should we approach modeling this? Now the Vespa motorbike itself, the scooter, right, consists of several parts which are easily identifiable. Okay, let's take a look at one of the photos here. Okay, there is the wheel hood here. We can start by modeling this piece. Now you can put a donut or torus as a tire stand-in for now. There's a wheel hood over this. Then there is this main fairing. If you look closely in this image, let me just click on the image and then see what I can zoom in. Okay, on second thought, I'm just going to zoom in on this. Okay, holding down to Control Plus in Chrome. You can see a seam here, but you can actually create this entire piece as a continuous fairing. Okay, another part that is quite unique in itself is the seat. And then, of course, the engine cover itself. Okay, you can identify the seams very, very clearly here. On the right side of the motorbike, you can see the exhaust. And on the other side, you can see the kickstart and the air filter. And the wheel detail itself, you have a suspension, and then you have like the wheel spokes and all that. Now, at the early stage of your modeling, you should concentrate on just blocking out the shape of the motorbike. So let's start by just blocking out the tires first. I'm just going to create a couple of toruses to act as tire stand-in. You can move the tires approximately over the reference, and then you can adjust the radius. Okay, these will act. I'm going to duplicate another one, and these will act as stand-in first. Okay, so now we have the stand-in tires. Now I want to create the tire hood. You create a polygon cube. Okay, split the polygon cube into two divisions like that. Actually, I want it to be in the height division, or depth division rather. And for the width division, I don't want any. Maybe width division only one. Okay, because I want to create a basic shape. And split this into half because later I'm going to use the duplicate special. to create the other half. I'm going to end up with a shape looking like this. We start out with this shape. And move this shape over the wheel hood. Okay, go to vertex mode and start to move the vertices and match the shape. Press or go to the shading mode, the X-ray view. So we can start to move the vertices to form the wheel hood. Okay, spread them out a little bit. Remember, you want to keep the number of counts, or rather the vertex count, to be as low as possible. So I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Okay, there's a slight taper here, so I'm going to move this inwards like that. So this is a good thing that if you have a top view, it'll be much easier to model. Because the reference here is a little bit low resolution, so sometimes you have to guess where the edge will flow. Now select the edge and you can go to the right view, shift right mouse click and then extrude the edge, use a global switch and then grab an edge here. Okay, while it's still selected, you can rotate, you can scale it down, or you can simply go to vertex mode and just move them into place, which might be easier. Okay, again, go and select these edges, these two edges, and then extrude the edge again using the global switch and then pull out another section. And this time I'm going to rotate this completely downwards. Okay, I'm going to select these two edges here and then I'm going to extrude the edge using the global switch and then pull it down, rotate it, press W, and then you can move it down. There seems to be an attachment here, so I'm going to ignore that and I'm just going to follow a curve here. Now, if you press number 3, you will notice that in subdivided mode, it actually looks pretty close to the hood already. But there's a very hard edge here. You can insert another edge loop to harden it. Go to edge selection and then insert one edge loop right about here. Okay, if you press number 1 to go to the base model mode, you get this shape right now. Go to top view and select the vertices. Now, normally, to create the hard edge, I wouldn't insert the edge loop at such an earlier period. So if you don't need it, you can select the edge loop by double clicking on it, Control Delete to remove it. You want to keep things simple at this early stage. And when you have less vertices, it is easier to move around. So now I'm just moving these vertices until they follow the general shape of the reference. Okay, I assume that this one will go in, okay, although it's covered by the fairing here. Okay, so now I have the wheel hood. And you can use duplicate special. We're going to reset this setting. Make sure you're creating an instance and then the scale in the negative x-axis because of the way I'm oriented. If you're oriented the same way as me, then you will go to the scale in the x-axis column here. These 3 columns represent the 3 axes, x, y, z. So x, -1, and then duplicate special. So now you have the hood done. If I go to get rid of x-ray shading, and then you have this hood here. If you go to vertex mode, you want the center to line up. You go to the top view. Make sure you select the central vertices and move them to the center. Holding down the X key, you can move it until it snaps to the center. So right now, the two halves will meet nicely. And you press number 3, so you have the stand-in. Okay, I think there's a slight height difference. So I'm going to try to freeze, okay, modify, and then freeze the transformations, and then duplicate special again. Okay, I still have this weird angle going on here. I'm going to try to fix that. Let me see my duplicate special whether I have changed something. Duplicate special, click on the option box. I'm just going to reset the settings. I'm going to create instance -1. Need to select this. Yeah, now it's fixed. I think there is a 1 unit just now, so that this front part is not being matched. But if you never change the duplicate special, it should be fine. All right, so the hood is now done. So now I want to model this section here, the fairing. Okay, so for me, the quickest way would be to create a cross section using, again, you can use a polyplane or a cube. Okay, so I'm going to use a polygon plane. I'm going to reduce it down to just one section, and again, width, maybe I'll just use 1, and I'll just delete the face here. Okay, I want to insert an edge loop. Go to edge mode first, right mouse click edge, shift, insert an edge loop, and then go to Q, select one of the edges here, and then extrude one edge outwards like that. So I'll start off with this simple piece first. Again, I'm modeling half of the scooter. So move the piece here, rotate it until it follows the orientation of the reference. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the top view. I'm going to scale this up so that, and change the angle so it matches the angle of the reference here. Okay, and then I want to make sure that there's enough space for the wheel column or the steering column later on. Okay, so now I'm going to select all the faces. I'm going to extrude downwards. So select these 3 faces, and then I'm going to start to extrude. Go to the right view for your reference. Use the global switch again, and then pull down one section all the way down here. Okay, if your faces are black, it simply means that it's just reversed. So go and select the entire object, go to display, and then, or rather mesh display, and then hit reverse. So everything will be back to normal gray again. And we're going to select the bottom face here. Go back to the right view again. I'm going to use scale to flatten it down first. Okay, while the faces are still being selected, go and extrude the face using the global switch again. I'm going to pull down one more section here. And you can use the global switch, make sure it's enabled. If it's rotated this way, it's correct. Then press G to repeat, extrude another face here. Using global switch and rotate the face again. So I'm just simply blocking out the shape. All right, so if you look at the 3D view here, you notice that you have created half of the fairing already. Okay, but one area here is that if you are going to duplicate special to create the other side, make sure you delete away the central faces here. Go ahead and delete that so that there is a open gap like that. And since we created this right at the perfect center here, I should be able to apply duplicate special with no issues. Now you can see the fairing is coming out nicely. Right now, this basic block shape is only consists of a few segments. If I press number 3 to subdivide it, okay, I got something that's pretty close, but I'll definitely need to insert more edge loop to build up the rest of the body section or the fairing. So right now, before I insert edge loop, I want to pull out this section to using the vertex to form the bulk of the space behind here, or there's like this very small compartment space here. So I want to create here to create the pull out the vertices to form the area to put in the steering column. And then perhaps pull out this bottom here to form the belly of the bike. And then at this stage, then I feel comfortable to insert my edge loops now. Insert one edge loop here. Go to vertex mode and go to X-ray mode under the shading and start to move the vertices to match the shape of the reference. Notice the fairing. The fairing actually bends down a fair bit. So I'm going to grab the tip of the fairing and moving the 2 vertices here to match the shape of the fairing. Okay, another section here, you can see there's a change in the shape. So I'm going to insert one edge loop. And then push the vertices in, like so. In this area, you can pull it out a little bit. And then because there's going to be a wheel well or wheel depression, you have to grab these vertices and pull them in. There is a very extreme bend here. So we need a couple of more edge loops to define this area. So go to the edge and insert a couple more edge loops. One more edge loop here. And insert edge loop here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to non-X-ray mode. You can see the shape is coming along just fine. And if I press number 3 to subdivide it, actually doesn't look too bad. Okay, I definitely need to using the front reference to pull up these group of vertices so that it matches the width of the reference here. Okay, so now I got the fairing more or less done. And you notice that this section here extends all the way here, but I want to create this area separately. So I'm going to go back to the base level. I'm just going to get rid of these faces, okay, because later I'm going to extend it forward. And there is a slight extrusion up here. So I'm going to insert one edge loop. Let's go to the right view. I'm going to insert the edge loop here. And then I can choose the faces on top here to extrude. Again, I'm going to get rid of these faces here. And the internal face, make sure you delete them as well. You don't want to keep any internal faces. Later, when you subdivide, you're going to have some artifacts, weird artifacts. So I can now select this top face, and I'm just going to put it down here for now. And now we're going to create this section here. We're going to use a tool called Create Polygon Tool. Or you can start off with a cube and then insert edge loop and then pull it to here. But I think you guys can try creating this Create Polygon Tool. I'm going to create a very basic shape starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at all times, I want to make sure that eventually I slice this up, it will form 4-sided faces. Okay, maybe right about here. Okay, I think this is good enough. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to use a knife tool to cut down to here. Press enter. Cut from this vertex to this vertex. Make sure that all the faces are now 4-sided. Satisfy the condition. Now select these 4 faces and then go ahead and extrude it. Okay, but you must extrude it in the view. Holding down the control key, grab the extrusion angle, and then you can scale it non-uniformly down. Or you can use this manipulator, it's the same thing. Again, if you end up with a black vertex, all you need to do is just, or rather black faces, just go and mesh display and then reverse it. Okay, go to the top view, grab the newly created piece, and just move it. Okay, prefer to move it in vertex mode, grab and move it out until it sort of matches the shape of your reference. Okay, then select these faces and extrude them inwards in the x-axis here. Right, and the internal face, while they're being selected, you can just press delete and delete them. Okay, so now we have the bottom view here. And I think we can select these bottom faces here. I should have extruded these together. Anyway, I'm just going to scale them flat and then extrude it downwards in the global axis. And go back to my right view. and scale them down slightly. Okay, so this is how I would approach the modeling. Okay, everything is just blocked out bit by bit first. Because this is it's an open shell, the bottom face I can just delete them away. Or there's an internal face here. Oh, no, there's not internal face, but the side faces which was extruded, I'm gonna delete them so there's an empty shell like this. Then again, I'm gonna apply a duplicate special. First, I need to go to the top view, make sure that these central vertices here are located at the central line here. So while it's in move mode, holding down to X, then grab it until it snaps to the central line. Use scale to flatten them in the same line. Then now you can go to object mode and duplicate special so you have another piece on the other side. Okay, this vertex here, I'm going to grab this vertex and then pull out slightly. Go to the top view. Okay, we need to pull out another vertex. This one, pull it out to the top view, and you can see I'm matching my reference as close as I can. You can press 3 to subdivide it, and there you have this, the engine shell piece here. But take note that there's a very hard edge that goes around here, but as you start to model it further on, usually it's just another extra edge loop that will define this section here. Mistake there. Okay, what I want to do is just to insert one more edge right about here. And perhaps grab these faces, press Q to go to select, and non-wire X-ray. Scale this inwards. And again, start to move the vertices to match the cross section as much as you can. Okay, there's a big curve here, so we need to add an edge loop. And then move these group of vertices up here. You can also slide edge loops. For example, I want this edge loop to move away from here because this is too crowded here. So holding down the shift right mouse click and then use the slide edge loop and then slide it over here. And then go and select the group of vertices again and move them to match your reference. So as you add more edge loops, you're going to be moving the new detail eventually to match your model. This one, I definitely need to add one more edge loop right about here. So remember, at the blocking stage, you want to keep the amount of detail as low as possible. Okay, you do not want to add too much right at the beginning. Okay, right now I've broken down into all these different parts. Now the seat is pretty straightforward. You can just create a cube and then just position it into place. Split the cube into two in the width subdivision by one division like that. Okay, and then maybe a depth division, maybe 3. And we'll go right away to in vertex mode and in X-ray mode, start to move the vertices to match the shape of the seat. I could have used too many edge loops here, but not a problem. Let's spread them out. Okay, move the edge loops where there is a transition in shape. For example, from here to here, you can see a bend. There must be an edge loop there. This is how you determine where you should put the edge loops. If you have too many edge loops right in the beginning, you should try to remove them. And every time you remove them, you must use the Control Delete function. Okay, perhaps I want to, okay, maybe I just push this here and then insert one edge loop instead. If you go to edge mode first, select one of the edges, then you go to insert edge loop, maybe one more edge loop here, press Q, vertex mode, W, and move the vertices to match. Okay, and then perhaps insert one edge loop right at the center here so that we can round off the side view here. Now the proper way, of course, is right now I'm only moving the front view. You should always be moving the top view and the front view as well. You can see there's some tapering going down in the seat. And now I'm going to select half of this model and delete it away because I think you guys will know by now, I like to use duplicate special so that I only need to model half of the wheel or half of the object. So I blocked out the seat. Press number 3 to see what it looks like. Okay, the hood here, or rather the engine cover here, needs to have a bunch of faces selected here to extrude forward. So because I have a bunch of faces here, these 3 faces, I can easily select them, extrude them in the global axis and pull it out. We can use scale to flatten them. I'm going to use global scale, press R, and then switch to vertex mode and start to move it into place. So we can form this section. So at this stage, we are still blocking it out. We got a seat, we got a cover, okay, we got a standing wheels. Okay, we have not done the steering column, but you can see in a relatively short amount of time, can get all these shapes out very quickly. Now, remember, every time you extrude from the center like that, you end up with something called internal faces. If I subdivide it, you end up with a shape looking like this. It's not something you want. You must make sure you delete away the internal faces. Now you can delete away. It's easier for you to actually pick it out when you're in subdivided mode. So I'm going to delete them. Now you can see the gap is being covered. Okay. We can see at this blocking stage, I already created all these parts relatively quickly. Okay, so once you are done with this, then you can start to build the other pieces like the steering column, the other internal parts. Okay, right now there is this, what I call that, there's a storage compartment here, which you need to select the faces. Okay, if you know the scooter well, you have to select the faces and then move the storage, move it wider so that there is enough space to actually include a storage compartment. Okay, if you ride a scooter like I do, okay, there is also, you need to push this wider so that you can put the steering column. Okay, we have a bunch of faces, which I think I accidentally pushed in too far. So I'm gonna grab these vertices. Actually, I can grab the edge here and push it back in. Okay, so now this makes much more sense. Okay, I shall stop the streaming from here, but this is essentially how you block out to model a vehicle like a Vespa GTS.